Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our closing panel, Quantum Takeaways Insight from the Outside In. Over the past 2 days, we've explored the frontier of quantum science and technology, from qubits to real-world quantum applications, from hardware to geopolitics. But for this next sessions, we're flipping the script. Our panelists are not quantum physicists or quantum entrepreneurs. They are leaders in policy, investment, and innovation, people who shape the environments in which quantum innovation must thrive. They've spent the last 2 days immersed in this world, and now we're asking them to share their honest reflections. What resonated? What confused them? What will they take back to their sectors, and what may they do differently because of what they've seen here in Montreal? Just days after the G7 spotlighted the importance of quantum as dual-use technologies, this is a chance to listen, learn, and maybe even be a little uncomfortable. Let's hear what quantum looks like from the outside in. Let's collapse that wave function, shall we? So, in terms of first impressions, and what was your state of mind coming here? And what did you expect to hear versus what you actually heard? So I would like to start with you, Ludovic.
Great. Well, first of all, I'll take a second to present myself. Ludovic Duquette, I'm Senior Director for Venture Capital Activity at Investissement, Québec. We manage a portfolio of around $750 million investment with over 100 companies, specifically in venture capital. Investissement Québec is kind of a one-stop shop for every problem a business can have. So it can be either to help you to export, to do some research and R&D, or obviously for funding in different stages of your business. So for this specific event, well, we were really happy to come and to see that we have a tremendous event specifically for quantum in Canada, specifically in Montreal as well. I think it's a great achievement, and we were really eager to meet everybody of the ecosystem at the same time. I was really surprised to be able to meet numbers of people in that crowd that were so happy to share the information that we wanted to just to understand the ecosystem, understand what we were doing, and to help us to get into the quantum industry. So that was really great for us.
Claudia?
Maybe I'll do the same. I'll just speak a little bit about what Ontario Centre of Innovation, or OCI, does before I get into the question. We're a not-for-profit organization. We're based in Ontario, and we work with industry, academia, and government to help support the development, commercialization, and adoption of new and advanced technologies. So we work across all sectors, but with companies typically that are at the pre-seed and seed stage. We provide grants for collaborative R&D projects, and we also provide seed financing as well. And we have provided that type of support to startup companies in the quantum sector broadly. In terms of what I was expecting in coming to this event, and it did deliver. So one, yes, absolutely. The opportunity to connect with stakeholders across provinces was fantastic. We have vibrant, when we talk about the quantum ecosystem in Canada, the reality is we have hubs of activity across the country. We have hubs in Quebec, in Ontario, and on the West Coast. And this event has really provided an opportunity and a platform to form some connections, so we can then use those connections to perhaps do some collaboration, because that's something that I think could actually strengthen Canada's competitiveness and the opportunities that we have if, for example, we start collaborating across the Ontario-Quebec quantum tech corridor. And it's already happening with the startups that we support. Xanadu is here, for example, and Xanadu is active both in, they're Ontario-based, but doing a lot of exploring opportunities and doing work in Quebec. So seeing more of that would be really great, and I think this is a fantastic start to those types of conversations.
Excellent. Emma?
All right, well, thank you for having me on this panel as the only non-Canadian up here. I am from the United States, but I work for the Electric Power Research Institute. While I am from the United States, we are a global company. We work in well, I won't say every single country, but many of the countries that we all want to interact with. And our main goal is really to look at the energy sector to make sure that it is sustainable, that it is reliable, and that it is secure. And it is really for the public well-being and the good of the world, really. Energy provides clean water, it provides healthcare, it provides a lot of different things, and it's, and the UN does recognize this, but like energy can be at the heart of everything. And so to do this, I actually am the lead in nuclear innovation and quantum technologies. I am not a physicist. However, they're like, Emma, you need to go and like find out what's really going on and tell us, who are also not physicists, what should we think? So I came into this not having dove really deep into this area of Canada, really, that deeply. I had no idea what was here. I knew about D-Wave, I knew about evolution Q, I knew about SB quantum, and they told me I had to come here and see for myself what the ecosystem was like. I had moderate expectations of what I would find here. I think Canadians are a little bit too modest, because when I come away from here, I'm gonna be like, you don't know what you're all missing, because this is an ecosystem that can be leveraged. This is one of the big takeaways I have. And that we can do everything here in Canada. It's all here. And the last thing I just asked Ludovic is, do we have a test bed for robots so I can do the full package? I have so many ideas. Anyway, I'll save that.
You're here for that, yeah. A little too polite, need more pride and ambition, I think. And when people come over here, I think when they see it, they just like, it's a sight to behold. I agree, fully agree. So an open question for any of you. So you had a chance to assist to the different talks, maybe also visit the Tech Expo. Is there someone or a specific session or even maybe a technology that you've seen that you were really like, excited about or surprised about? Is there something in the last 2 days that has kind of resonated with you specifically?
I can go.
Yeah.
I can go first. So, on one of the panels today, Taro from QStar and Toshiba, especially when he said, and I wrote it down, not for this panel because I didn't know the questions in advance, but it was really striking. He said, the moment will be lost if people don't realize it's already here. And that coming from the industry. So at OCI, we work with early stage startups. We hear startups saying that all of the time. But actually to hear a large company saying that, and specifically a consortium of large companies saying that was truly a moment that suggests that we are at a tipping point.
Right. Well, one thing on my side that surprised me, we've been kind of studying quantum in the quantum industry for the past months, and we were really focused on the technology that will help to bring the fault-tolerant computer to the reality. And we were really focusing on 2033 as an end goal. But what I realized during the last 2 days is there's a lot of great startups as well that are really working with quantum technology that are solving actual problems today that we can leverage right now in order to make sure that people in the industry really look at it right now, even though we are looking as well at 2033.
Thank you.
I think that's something that was surprising, or something that I didn't fully comprehend. I think it was yesterday, looking at like cybersecurity and all the different aspects of that, and how important it is to think now. Now, I started thinking about this like 5 years ago, and people were like, it's too soon. I was like, it's never too soon. But I didn't have the tools or the examples that I think I have today that I can take back and say, look at these examples. There are real people using these new technologies, these new avenues. And I think I have more tools now from listening and meeting all of these different people.
Excellent. So I'll bounce on that comment, Emma. As a nuclear principal lead for innovation in quantum technologies, could you comment on how you approach new technology or disruptive technologies in terms of resiliency, infrastructure, security, in terms of energy sector? How do you look at quantum technology, but let's say abroad, any disruptive technology in terms of security?
There's nothing too disruptive. There's nothing too out there. I look at fusion too. Everyone says it's 20 years out. Okay, but used to be 50 years out. So I'm like, that's an improvement. So nothing actually is too out there. Now, what I really do look for are the indicators is it really coming soon, or is it really just 50 years out and you're just adding another 50 years on top of it, right? For quantum technologies, or any technologies, I look at it with a critical eye of, can I use this in XYZ today? 3 years, 5 years, okay, it's like a little too far for me, right? Like, this is what we have great national labs around the world for. But if it's something that I think that I can engineer a solution or compel others to figure out how to actually implement this in a meaningful way, meaning commercialization, this is what we're gonna try to focus on. Now, fusion is a long-term thing. We do that as well. And what we do there is we look at what are the enabling aspects to fusion. Now, I look at it not just because I think fusion will happen. I think looking at like different material properties, different types of sensor technologies, different AI methods of thinking, other computing, high power computing, a lot of different magnet configurations. While, say, fusion won't happen in our lifetime, I hope it does, by the way. While it may not happen in our lifetime, every innovation that you move towards that is also another solution for someone else. So when I look at it that way, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the pie in the sky, but I'm going to create lots of little solutions for other people. And that's why I feel very, very confident in every step that we make.
Excellent, thank you. Claudia, while Canada invests heavily in research and development, it struggles to translate that investment into commercial success and innovation-based economic growth, leading to a perception of innovation deficit here in Canada. So in what you've heard yesterday and today, do you see something different happening here in quantum in Canada? And if not, what's missing, or where are the gaps?
So it's interesting, because over the last 2 days, there has been quite a lot of discussion about commercialization and applications and end users. And they're almost like kind of two categories: the things that are closer to market, quantum sensing, quantum communications, and the things that are further away, like quantum computing. And one of the things that I worry about is the following. We tend to have a tendency, and this is specific to deep tech, where we say, okay, is this close to market? Is it ready to be commercialized? And then right when it's like on that right tipping point, you say yes, because there are end users and it's ready to be commercialized, and we're going to have successful commercialization, and then governments and policymakers develop programs to drive to support that commercialization and adoption. But then when you look at things that are further away, that are a lot more research intensive, like quantum computing, for example, there's a tendency to say, well, it's still too early. The end users aren't really there. Where are the practical applications? And I worry about that specifically with respect to quantum computing. I don't want us to find ourselves in a similar situation that we found ourselves with respect to AI. So yes, Canada is a global center of excellence when it comes to AI research, AI talent. But if you look at the economic benefit that Canada has or has not realized from the commercialization of that IP that, for example, was developed in Jeff Hinton's lab at the University of Toronto, that economic benefit wasn't actually realized in Canada. The commercialization took place elsewhere because that investment was made at an earlier stage. And so I worry about this discussion. Well, is it too early for quantum computing? There aren't end users that are stepping up. The reality is the world is, other jurisdictions are betting very heavily on the commercialization of quantum computing, despite the stage that it's at, despite the fact that it might be 5 to 15 years, and Canada has to do the same thing, because if it doesn't, we may be here 5 years from now saying, well, how did we miss the opportunity in the way we missed the AI commercialization opportunity? So that's kind of my reflection, but you got to kind of separate quantum communications and sensing from quantum computing, because they're at different stages with respect to commercialization.
But I think it's a reality that we face in every industry in Canada. We tend to wait to have a product that is perfect before thinking we can commercialize it. Is it too soon to go to market and commercialize your product? The answer is never yes. You can go. Okay? Right now, it won't be a good product. It doesn't really matter. What's matter is, are you able to iterate with your client and make sure your product is better? ChatGPT at the first iteration was not a good product. Now it's a lot better and is going to be better again. So put your product in the hand of your client as fast as you can in order to make sure that you are solving problem for them.
So the definition of insanity is trying the same process and hoping for a different result. So like, it's interesting that you make the AI, you're using the AI example. Is there's lessons learned from the AI that we can use here? Like, or quantum is so different that we expect that we're going to get a different results. Open-ended question again, like, does someone want to take it? Like, we've learned our lessons from AI or from other deep tech, or like we believe that quantum is so different that we'll have a different result?
Well, I think we need to learn from our lessons, especially from AI. Montreal was supposed to be the first city in AI in the world when it started. Now, look at every top 10 review of city in AI in the world, you don't see Montreal. Toronto come before. The reason why is we just struggle to work together in order to make sure that we keep that place and we want to drive together as a whole. So it will be the same thing for quantum as well. Quebec is leading the way, yes, we do, but we won't be able to bring Canada at the forefront of everything in the world if we're not working together as well. So we were talking about the fact that Ontario and Quebec needs to work together. We need to make sure that we have our leaders in our specific field, and we make sure that they thrive as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Right now, so have we learned our lesson? Or that's a tough question to answer, but I think some of the positive signals that we're seeing, number one, there is a lot of startup activity. Yep. And if you look at the trajectory that AI applications and development took, there wasn't the intensity, I would argue, given the stage where quantum computing, for example, is at. There's a lot more intensity at this early stage, a lot more investment at that early stage, so I think that is a positive sign. But I do want to reiterate the fact that if Canada wants to maintain a leadership position globally, we have some unique assets, but those assets, whether they're companies or other types of assets, they're dispersed across the West Coast, across Quebec, across Ontario, and we need to collaborate. And we need to kind of collaborate in a very meaningful and intentional way, because if those ecosystems remain fragmented, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to punch above our weight globally, because the reality is if you look at what other jurisdictions and whether state governments are investing in quantum, it is phenomenal. And far surpasses what we will be able to invest. That's why we have to kind of leverage the capacity we have across these different regions.
Thank you. Ludovic, I have a question for you. So a recent report showed that Canadian companies closed fewer venture capital deals in the first 3 months of 2025 than any quarter since the start of 2020 in the last 5 years. So I think lack of VC funds here in Canada is a common theme that you might have heard in the last 2 days. So what's your take on this?
Well, first we need to understand why, venture capital is not an asset class that is that popular today, okay? So the rising interest rate just create a vacuum where, venture capital is an asset class that is really risky and is earning, really decent return. But when the interest rate rise, all the other asset classes that are less risky become more appealing, and it's creating a vacuum of capital that is going in other asset class. That being said, most of the venture capital fund will look at usually SaaS businesses that are generating recurring revenue in software that are generating 90% margin. This is not the case for quantum industry. It won't affect the fact that we are creating a vacuum now and we don't have much investment in venture capital. I don't think it will really move the needle for the industry. If we're looking at our portfolio in industrial tech, which is really active right now, it's probably the most performing asset class in our venture capital portfolio today. The reason why is simply because we managed to have a lot of great companies that partners with industry players in order to get capitals. So those industry players invest in those companies. They work as well in order to create either generate NRE, launch new product. Even some of our strategic investors provide free resources for those startups in order just to make sure that they end up creating the product that they want. So it's really a matter of more how the industry is going to collaborate with the quantum industry than if the VC will follow up. They will follow up eventually, but I wouldn't be really bothered by that as of now.
Okay, thank you. So Emma, you're from the US. I think we've heard, like, in terms of quantum technology being considered for in the kind of national security reasons. Also, Minister Evan Solomon talked about technological sovereignty. What you would say are the biggest risks in terms of quantum technology, but not just like a technical risk, but more in terms of business, social, or geopolitical risks right now?
That's a very loaded question. I'm going to approach it this way. As I'm looking more into it, and I'm doing a big focus in quantum sensors right now because it is more near term. I see lots of areas where I can actually apply it and help startups commercialize their solutions. But the big risk that we're running right now, and I actually have to shy away from a lot of different solutions, is the risk that it's actually going to turn military grade instantly. I'm having a lot of discussions with different defense departments, and there are probably some here. They'll probably talk to you. But like, we toe this line between commercial and military. And a lot of things I want to do, I know for sure are military grade. And it would be fantastic if I could do it, and I already know I can't do it. And I want to talk about what those are. But that is one of the risks we run, is that all of a sudden, all of your technology is behind a military closed door and is no longer commercial ready. Because they have locked it down, they have turned it into something that can no longer be innovated because it's only a few people know what's going on anymore. And there is a risk that that could happen in some of these technological areas, that it really becomes a national secret, a national asset, and it's military grade. And so that is one of my fears, is that I'm going to come across something so great, but all of a sudden tomorrow I cannot use it. And that is one of my biggest fears.
That's a very interesting perspective, because earlier today we had a panel that talked about dual-use technologies and opportunities related to defense and security, and just the overall perception was this is an opportunity. In Canada, in the last, let's say, 6 months or so, at the federal level, there's a lot of interest in dual-use technologies. Funding is anticipated to support it. But that's a very interesting perspective, because there is a risk associated with it that actually can lock down that technology. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So we're coming near the end of the panel. I would like to ask you, each of you, in your respective role, to build on the momentum we've created with the conference in the last 2 days, what actions you or what you would propose to everyone in the room and the audience should do or say in their respective jobs or role to maximize impact of Canada in quantum on a global stage. So what are you taking as a message or actionable items that you will bring to your respective roles? So what do you suggest the audience should be doing?
I'll start. This is not going to be a popular answer. I'm going to tell all my American friends they need to come see Sherbrooke. I'm not sure you want an invasion of Americans. Okay, and to be honest,
be careful about that.
This is why I'm like, this is maybe not popular. And though all of my colleagues from around the world, right? I'm going to open their eyes to say, hey, look at what I found. Look at all these little hidden gems that are just north of us, or whichever direction they're sitting in. You can just go to Montreal, it will be fine. They have wonderful amenities there. And then go to Sherbrooke and take a tour, and it's got the full ecosystem. It has people who want to innovate. They have, they actually have real quantum computers there that you could possibly use if you have a right use case. There are people to talk to. They're super nice. I have already, with all the business cards that I've been taking, all the people I've met, LinkedIn things, I'm already telling all my folks, you should have seen all of my little chats. I'm like, did you know this is happening? Did you know that, Phantom Photonics does LiDAR? I'm like, they're like, what is this? I need to know now. I'm like, no, because I am still investigating. And so I have already started making all of these connections. I don't need to wait till tomorrow. I started yesterday.
Excellent, excellent.
So one of the actions that I'm going to take when I go back to Toronto is one of the things that is very, very apparent is in Quebec, there's a very vibrant quantum ecosystem. It's very well kind of coordinated, and there seems to be an investment by stakeholders in building capacity in that ecosystem. So it's not just about the startups, but it's also the kind of the capacity to support the startups, to support the technology development, and to support the adoption. That's something that I believe we need to see a lot more of in Ontario, and building that kind of capacity to have that kind of well-integrated ecosystem with respect to the quantum sector, where everyone's moving in the same direction and there's capacity building. That's one action. And then the second action is we will be chatting about an Ontario-Quebec collaboration, absolutely, because I think there is an opportunity. Our startups are already doing that, and it would be, it's time to have the funders and the broader ecosystem organizations follow suit.
Yeah. Well, I think the 2 days of the event really highlight the fact that we are at an inflection point, and we need to start to be more active, especially on our side and on the investment side. We've been working at IQ for the past months to develop our investment thesis in quantum computing, and we are going to be more and more active now in order to do some investment. We already have some direct or indirect investment in quantum. As an example, we are an LP in Quantiset, which is an amazing partner right now. So we expect to be able to do our first investment this year, and we expect to do a lot more as well in the coming years. To all my fellow colleagues as well in investment, the message I would have for you is clearly it is a time to enter into the quantum industry. Mm-hmm. Yes, for a venture capital investor, it's a really risky investment. You need to do it carefully. The people in this crowd are really, really eager to help you to understand and navigate through that ecosystem. And IQ is also part of it. If you want to have a chat to understand why we're doing it, how we're going to do it, it's going to be a pleasure for me and my team to explain you what we're doing.
Excellent. Is there any advice you would give to, let's say, a quantum entrepreneur to kind of communicate a little bit better with people like you on selling their technology? Like, if you had to visit the Tech Expo, was it pretty clear what quantum was doing? Is there a few advice you would give them to the quantum entrepreneurs out there to sell you a technology?
Don't explain me how it works. Explain me what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And every time you're going to speak to an investor, that's the proxy we're going to use, because most of the time we're not able to understand the technology as deep as you do. And it makes sense. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we surround ourselves with people that are able to validate that technology. But what we're really looking is to understand, what problem are you solving? I've heard a little bit too much, to be honest, in the last 2 days. We're looking for problem to solve, which is usually the biggest red flag when you're a VC investor. You need to understand the industry in which you're working, and then to provide the right solution for them. So make sure as well, when you are quantum computing or even any technology in quantum and you're building a product, make sure to surround yourself with people from the industry to make sure you understand that industry, how they think, what's their buying process, what's their development process, and what are their real pain point, not only a cool gadget that you're building. You're doing really cool stuff, don't get me wrong, but we just need to make sure that we build those bridges between the industry and the technology right now.
Yeah, sometimes it's the perfect solution looking for a problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's going to be my last questions, but first I would like to thank my panelists for their candor, their curiosity as well. I think quantum doesn't exist in a vacuum. We need translators. We need people that can actually make those bridge builders as well. So that we need people who ask the hard questions and connect the dots. So thank you for all for being part of this conversation. So this is going to be the exam, the last question, and whoever wants to answer it, as now you are a quantum expert. So when do you think entrepreneurs, policymakers, investors, communicators, government folks should get involved in quantum? Or in short, in one word, when is quantum?
Now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.